Today on the Big 3 in 30, number 8 Michigan State holds off Rutgers.
Trinidad Chambliss was the player that had the most eyeballs on him because of how good of a player he is.
Iowa nearly knocks off number 3 Michigan.
We have to talk about that finish, right?
And the NCAA appeals the court decision to let Trinidad Chambliss play next season.
A game that is going to leave us certainly wondering what if.
This is the Big 3 in 30 College, the 3 biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Michigan State avoided an upset bid from unranked Rutgers yesterday and escaped with a 4-point win. Locked On Spartans host Matt Sheehan looks over that narrow win.
I really was hoping to talk about how great Jeremy Fears looked tonight, how outstanding Cohen Carr was. Just wax poetically about these seniors, namely Carson Cooper, Jackson Kohler, not just for what they've done this game, this season, but what they've meant culturally for this team. But we have to talk about that finish, right? I hate to put this decision on you as a guest, but as a newly anointed producer of this show now, we have to start with that, right? Because that was interesting.
I couldn't even point to. Well, I know it was the inbounds plays that went wrong, but it felt like the Iowa game 3 years ago all over again. Where Rutgers wasn't missing. That didn't help, obviously.
They made their last 8 shots in the last 2 minutes of regulation. They were
the least surprising stat of all time. I mean, they were throwing up circus layups on drives where Jeremy Fears is trying not to foul.
One of those should have been an and one too, but that's not me saying that. That's not me saying that. That's man, we got away with it.
At some point, you just gotta tip your cap and be like, well, that was just an incredible way to finish a game for Rutgers. But at the same time, Izzo wanted to send the seniors out right. Kind of did it a little bit too early. You wouldn't think it was too early. It was 15 points against Rutgers. They were up 81-66 with 147 left.
Yeah. Look, I know that we have beaten this horse so far beyond the ground that is at Earth's core right now. And I hate to do this on the kid's senior night. I'm sure his family listens to every episode, but if you ever want to know just what exactly you're getting with Denim Wojcik, he was finally handed the keys to run this whole offense up 10 points with 50 seconds left. And that's how it went on both sides of the court too. I mean, not to pin every single issue that we had in the final minute, 2 minutes just on him, but do we need any more evidence before we go into March? It is danger territory whenever he's on the court. Anyway, sorry. I hate to do this to the kid.
The defense,
seriously.
The defense drops off considerably when he's on the floor.
It's a power play. It's a power play.
I mean, teams just attack him pretty much, and all he does is either swipe down on the arms for a foul so they don't get an easy 2, or they get an easy 2. So.
Or both. He'll do honestly, both. He'll follow you and give you an easy shot. It's best of both worlds sometimes.
It might be time to start talking about Jordan Scott as the backup point guard.
If I can, and I hate to do this in a post-game episode where we're talking about should be a victory, but really, we're in March. There's some concerning things. We'll get to another one here later on. But yeah, I was going to save this for later on. Let's talk about it now. One of the things that I wanted to rail on from this game is that Jeremy Fears, he picks up a foul and a technical foul. He's now at 4 fouls with around 10 minutes left.
Though.
Sorry?
The weakest technical of all time, though.
Of course. Neither here nor there. Of course it was. Anyway, we're up a comfortable amount. 4 fouls with Jeremy Fears. And I'm thinking to myself, bummer, weak technical, as you said. But if not for nothing else, what a golden time to just get some Jordan Scott point guard minutes, or even see what it looks like with Trey Fort. Mm-hmm. We didn't even get a possession with either Scott or Fort running the point guard from there on out. It was either Denim Wojcik for a bulk of it, or of course they did sub Jeremy back in with 4 fouls. But man,
you saw Nick Sanders out there.
Okay, you know what? You got me there. Yeah, fine, whatever, man. Okay, fine. From 10 minutes to 1 minute left in the game, you would have thought you could get like some dress rehearsal of some more point guard play from someone not named Denim Wojcik should you need a backup point guard, and they didn't, which I thought was downright puzzling, if not concerning, because I had this takeaway after the Purdue game. That felt like the real dress rehearsal for March Madness. This is what our lineup's going to be. These are the 7-8 soldiers that we're going to walk into battle with, and Denim was one of those guys out there. I'm sorry to just beat him to smithereens, but he went into the Indiana game leading the Big Ten in turnover percentage. So when I hear Izzo say stuff like, oh, he's earned his spot out there, the hell he has. Like, enough. This isn't CYO basketball anymore where everyone just gets to play in front of their parents and everyone's happy. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry to get this heated after a victory on senior night, but oh my God. What more do you have to see to pull the plug on this nonsense?
Great CYO shout out, by the way.
One time for CYO. I'm sorry.
I can't be too mad about the way things ended, just because it was this was strictly because Izzo was trying to get all of the seniors in so he could get all of them out. And in doing that, I mean, you have Wojcik, Sanders, Fort trying to inbound the ball against Rutgers starters. And I mean, it wasn't really on anybody but Izzo in the backup. Like there was really nobody else to blame. I guess you could blame Izzo, but like do you think he thought about losing a 15-point lead with 1:45 left?
No, but now it will from here on out.
Yeah,
probably.
He's never going to do that again.
The only thing I would ding Izzo on is, were we saving that timeout when I think it was Fort trapped in the corner? Like, were we saving that for Sunday's game? Call the timeout. Denim, he brought that inbounds pass to 4.99 seconds, first of all. So sloppy finish. So, but I did want to ask about that. That was the second point I wanted to get to here is that a concern? Is this finish a concern? Because if you look at the Purdue game, they also only had 4 points in the last 4 minutes of that game. You look at the Indiana game, they had that 5-minute stretch very, very late in the game without a made field goal. But it was wonky. They did bring the subs in. They tried to have the senior night. Rutgers kept going pedal to the metal, which I don't fault Rutgers on. Mm-hmm. I don't have any issue with what they did.
No.
But, do you just think it was just chalk it up to playing with their food, trying to get senior night going, or do you think there's a deeper concern here as we are pretty much in March Madness right now?
The only concern was, the first half performance. Other than that, they played a great 18 minutes and 15 seconds, and then they took the 3 key backcourt players out, and we saw immediately what happened. Those 3 guys are not going to be playing in March unless we're up by 30. It might require a 30-point lead to put them in now, or maybe 10 seconds left in the 20-point game. I don't know. Right. But I can assure you that those guys, I mean, Wojcik will have to play a couple of minutes, but Fort may have cost himself some playing time there.
It was not good. It was not good.
It's just the whole thing. Wojcik is almost guaranteed playing time just out of necessity, which is so frustrating. And you can bash the kid all you want, but he's literally just there. He's just there. He's a glorified walk-on. Does his job most of the time on offense. He just passes the ball around, doesn't take shots. Defensively, huge liability, and clearly end-of-game situations, he just can't be in there.
Look, the take I wanted to come in here with before I just let my anger get the best of me there about Denim Wojcik for a little bit is, I do think that a large part of this game, especially the start of the game, was that this team's ready to just start playing meaningful basketball from here on out. This was a sandwich between a letdown spot after beating Purdue and Indiana on the road and then a look-ahead spot with not just Michigan, but the Big Ten tournament and March Madness on the horizon. They were sloppy. 10 turnovers in the first half. 6 of those were just complete laziness. And then they came out of halftime firing on all cylinders. 7-0 run immediately. They had more points in the first 10 minutes of the second half than they did in the whole first half as a whole. So I think once they woke up, it was fine. Yes, the end was wonky. Yes, I am pretty just helpless at this point about our point guard situation when Jeremy Fierce is either in foul trouble or just needs a breather. But yeah, I'm not overall too concerned about everything, despite how I started this show. I'm really not. So,
how many teams are going 8 for 8 in the final 2 minutes and scoring 21 points and 145 That's just, they had like a literal historic finish to the game. And thankfully it didn't end up biting us, but like they literally lost in all of this is how well they shot the ball in the final 2 minutes. It was insane.
Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll be automatically entered to win a shot to the NBA Finals. And it's a trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Not only can your pick cash, but it could send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. The NCAA is appealing a preliminary injunction that would allow quarterback Trinidad Chambliss to return and play for Ole Miss next season. As the situation just keeps getting messier, Stephen Willis makes sense of it all on Locked On Ole Miss.
Iowa falling to Michigan, 71-68. A game that is going to leave us certainly wondering what if. You get this victory, obviously Iowa, any talk about the bubble is completely off the page. That is as quality of a victory as you're going to find in college basketball. Very few teams would have a victory like that on their resume. It'd be not just another quad 1 victory. It'd be one of those quad 1A victories in the top half of a quad victory against Michigan. But alas, can't get it done in a night where the shooting was not tremendous. It was kind of the type of game that Iowa needed this to play out. Michigan, they got them to play the style that Iowa wanted, dictated style, but in the end, too much Wolverines. The size was the difference, and a couple of garbage shots that go in, including from Mara, bouncing that one in off the backboard. Just absolutely heartbreaking. Iowa had a shot to tie it at the end. Sturtz with the deep three-pointer that was just off the mark as he finished with 21, but not enough for the Hawkeyes. Couple of big stories of this game. First, on the positive front, just 5 turnovers. And if this team played the way they played tonight against Penn State last Saturday, they beat them by double figures. If they play this way against Maryland on the road a couple of weeks ago, they win that one by double figures. And that's, in a way, that's basketball. To steal a phrase from Kirk Ferentz, that's football. That's basketball. You're going to have bad nights. You're going to have nights where you don't play very well. But in a game where you look at Michigan, they shoot 53% from the floor. They hit 50% of their three-pointers. They get to the free throw line 22 times compared to Iowa's just 12 times at the foul line. They turned it over, though, 18 times. Iowa defensively was maybe as good as they've been going back to the Indiana game. I think that's maybe how far we have to go back, and the defensive intensity and the effort that we saw from this Hawkeye team. Iowa was tenacious. They were tough. They were physical. They were doing the things against a bigger, certainly size-wise Michigan team. They were right there with the chance to win it in the end. Couldn't get it done. Go back to those final couple of possessions. Obviously, the turnover from Tavion Banks, an absolute heartbreaker there. Guy trying to make the play. Clock was starting to run short. Sturtz, they got it out of his hands, got it to Banks. He went with the drive, went off his leg, defensive play. Look, the guy swiped down and it hit off his leg. I mean, those kind of things happen. Bennett Sturtz, listened to Ben McCollum after the game, said didn't get the switch that he wanted. Would have probably liked to see something different, just get the ball right back into his hands, but it didn't happen. And we'll have to live with it. But, one thing that jumped out, I looked at a couple of numbers. Ken Palm, after the game, Iowa actually went up in the rankings after this loss in those ones. Wins above bubble. We'll see those updated tomorrow. That is an important metric for the NCAA tournament. But after the frustrations of Saturday, some of their head-scratching decisions, that's what you expect. Getting down 10 and battling back like they did, tying the game back up, I think that said a lot about this group. Didn't shoot it well. Great Michigan team. Really good defense. You were right there. I don't want to play the moral victory. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Lucas Strain, who is also with me on the Iowa Sports Radio Network, going to join. We're going to talk with Lucas a little bit and go deeper into this ball game. But yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's frustrating. It's going to be a lot of questions of what could have been. In the end, 16 points on Lindenberg, who is incredible. Johnson had a good game, but Mara, 7'3" inside. His ability with that size, though, to just contort his body and change different things. Still, that garbage bank shot, it's going to bother me for a long time. That's going to live for a real long one. We talk about Bennett Sturt, 7 of 23 from the floor, 4 of 14. And one thing that I've seen, and I continue to see, is Iowa, when they attack the rim, even against a big team like this, even against a shot blocking team, they're just better. This is not a good three-point shooting team in Iowa. And I just want to see more of that. I want to see more of that from Bennett Sturts. Not trying to get in there to get the 12-footer, get the runner, or get to the baseline and try to find a jumper over there. No, get to the 10. Get to the rim, because Bennett Sturts is really good at it. This team as a whole, even as undersized as they are, they're a lot better than that, than settling for a long three-pointer with the shot clock running down. They're not good in that angle. Iowa in the game finishes with 15 assists on 25 made field goals. That is a very good mark also. Yeah, there was some highlights, but overall, Cooper Koch 1 of 4 from behind the 3-point arc. We've talked a lot about Cooper needing to find that shot. They good minutes, I thought, out of Isaiah Howard, out of Tate Sage. Need to get the offense a little bit going for Isaiah Howard going into next season. Certainly, Tate Sage, I thought, was tremendous. Not just what he did on the offensive end of the floor, what he did defensively. He was right there. There was a couple of different times where he was out there guarding Luxembourg. He did a good job, I think, overall, and certainly the size advantage that Yexel has in that one. Tate Sage definitely stood up. Looking at the plus-minus numbers for this one, Cam Manyow, he finished with a +8. That led the team, +5 for Tavion Banks, a -13 for Cale Combs, but the bottom of the barrel was Alvaro Fulgaris. Once again, Fulgaris struggling in this one, just 1 of 4 from the floor and a -16 in the 22 minutes that he was out there on the floor. And we didn't see Brendan Hassan after playing 15 minutes in the last game. That was a head scratcher.
Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll be automatically entered to win a shot to the NBA Finals. And it's a trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Not only can your pick cash, but it could send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. Iowa couldn't get the victory, but the Hawkeyes put on a good show for the home crowd in a 3-point loss against number 3 Michigan on senior night. After that defeat, Trent Condon recaps on Locked On Hawkeyes.
You saw us talk about the Trinidad case, and we were right absolutely through it. That case was over by 9 o'clock in the morning. I watched the whole thing live. The NCAA put on a clown show performance and didn't stay to the end. Got a show cause. Could end up in contempt of court. And I said leading into that trial or hearing that they were hoping that Charles Bediako, Trinidad Chambliss, and Joey Aguiar would win their cases so that they could take it to Congress. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. That's coming up because all of that is tied into this. Trinidad Chambliss was the player that had the most eyeballs on him because of how good of a player he is. You saw the FanDuel lines. He is the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy at the moment. Spring practice is starting in 2 weeks. The NCAA needed eyeballs on this thing if they wanted to get their antitrust exemption, which, by the way, they're not going to get. Only baseball has that. They're not going to get it. But the only way they could show that it would work is for college sports to be such a mess that they just were given to it in hopes that it would fix it. And they used the Trinidad Chambliss case to reach those ends. The NCAA admitted in court that if Trinidad Chambliss was at Ferris State, he would have gotten a rubber-stamped medical red shirt. Absolutely no problem. Trinidad Chambliss was told by the staff at Ferris State that he was going to get a medical red shirt. They announced it on national broadcast. There's video evidence of them talking about a medical red shirt. This is all before he transferred to Ole Miss. This whole deal was about D2 and D1 not talking, having two completely different sets of standards, and that hurting a kid. And then the court stepped in and did the right thing. That's what this is about. This is about a 6th-year senior. By the way, the moment Trinidad Chambliss got called to the stand in his own hearing, the NCAA approved another player for a 9th year of eligibility. So I do not want to hear how Trinidad is taking opportunities away from other people. That's not happening. The NCAA got their butt whipped in court. The judge, in order to make it appeal proof, had an hour-and-a-half reading on the proceedings. And if the NCAA wanted to appeal, they probably should have shown up for the reading of that, because now they're under a show cause order and at risk being in contempt of court. But on top of everything, they put together a 654-page document to send down to the Mississippi Supreme Court to try to appeal. And notice I said try to appeal, because it's not guaranteed that they can appeal this. The way it works is the Supreme Court can say yes or no and before they take an appeal. And historically, they've said no about 98% of the time. According to Michael Borky's Rebel Report podcast, he was talking about this legal breakdown of what's going on. It's called an interlocutory appeal to the Mississippi Supreme Court. And should it get in front of the Mississippi Supreme Court, they're probably not going to look too favorably on a legal team that completely disrespected the court that they are in charge of. The Supreme Court's not an adversary to this other court. They're all working together, and you just disrespected that. So the NCAA is under no thought that this would be successful. They know that Trinidad Chambliss is going to be Ole Miss's quarterback in 2026. They know that Trinidad Chambliss is going to be the starting quarterback when they start spring practice on March 23rd. Why did the NCAA do this? Well, we're going to talk about tomorrow's proceedings and how you don't need to be fooled about it. But tomorrow is going to be all about the federal government getting involved in college sports. The president's holding his commission. Congressmen are in that commission. And if the NCAA can make eyeballs appear to what's going on, they can push it through. And the only way they have to say that this is a system that they can't manage without an antitrust exemption is by Trinidad Chambliss, which, by the way, is a terrible example, because the reality of what happened with the Charles Bediako case and the Joey Aguilar case and the Trinidad Chambliss case is all three were ruled on like they should. When you look at the evidence, the NCAA presented no evidence in all three cases, by the way. None. They don't do that. They just drop the rule book down and argue with you for 7-8 hours in the day. I guess good money if you can get it. But in the Bediako case and Aguilar case, it went the way it was supposed to go. Aguilar was saying 4 years of junior college didn't count. Well, what about the 4 years in major college? And never mind. Bediako has been a pro for 2 or 3 years or something like that. There's a team picture, I think, with the Charlotte Hornets. It worked exactly like it was supposed to work. Trinidad was told he was getting a medical red shirt. It was on a broadcast that he was getting a medical red shirt. And the NCAA was throwing this case on there to get eyeballs. It is all about using this kid. They are essentially bullying Trinidad Chambliss at this point. Now, they can't win. They're like the bully that can't win. But they're doing that in order to achieve a different goal. This whole thing is about, when this show starts over the next 12 to 24 hours of what's going on, the news cycle that you're going to see about this, the NCAA is hoping this Trinidad Chambliss case, which they're going to bring up that they're trying to appeal to the Supreme Court, to Congress, in hopes that they get an antitrust exemption. In reality, when I was on Locked On College Football, Locked On SEC, anybody that would listen, and I tried to say that, hey, the NCAA wanted to lose all three of those cases so they can go to Congress and cry poor, I was dead on right. I was absolutely correct. And now, because of that, Trinidad's the only one that won. And he was the only one that probably correctly won his case, with Ole Miss proving beyond a reasonable assumption, I guess, to the judge that it deserved to happen. It definitely cleared the bar. And Ole Miss will have Trinidad Chambliss as their starting quarterback in 2026. They will have him in spring practice, going through spring practice. The NCAA will have this defeat to go to Congress and talk about, oh my gosh, woe is me. This is so hard. If you don't help us, we can't exist. And you know what? They're right. Without it, the NCAA doesn't exist in 10 years. Without it, the NCAA becomes even more toothless than they are. But they're not going to get it because traditionally the government doesn't hand stuff like that out. If you want to get to the real thing, the real reason the NCAA did this feigned appeal thing on the day it did, the day before there's supposed to be a summit for college sports, and congressionals were going to have eyes on it, and you're getting all these people around Nick Saban, all these people are going to talk about it. There's a reason the appeal was filed that day, because they're not going to win the appeal. The odds are they're not even going to get the appeal heard. Okay. The important part of this exercise was to do it and get it into the news and have that as a quiver in your tool chest, essentially, to bring up as a part, hey, we need an antitrust exemption, which, like I said, they're not going to get that, but that doesn't mean they're not going to try to get that. So they're going to do this Save College Sports thing. And listen, there's a lot of good ideas from everybody, but right now the Cody Campbell group and the Smash Sports group, they want one thing in particular that would completely ruin college sports for everybody involved, but especially the SEC and the Big Ten, and that is pooling media rights. There's a Sports Broadcasting Act from 1961 that prevents conferences from being able to pool broadcasting rights. They're trying to get that amended or changed. If that happens, all of a sudden, all the other schools are going to force and try and pressure the SEC and Big Ten to join in for the good of the game. And that is the point where the SEC and the Big Ten need to break away immediately. As soon as that is passed, break away, create your own thing, create your own media rights, pool them together, and have roughly a 45-team league of your own. The NCAA is trying to build an area through the Trinidad case to get heard on their stuff, but they're going to have to fight this because this is going to be the big talking point. There's people who are going to talk about transfer list and NIL stuff and hard salary caps, and this is just so hard for everybody, and people are going to lose sports, and that's all the stuff that you're going to hear in the sound bites. And these rich billionaire grifters are going to hope that the pooling media rights falls between the couch cushions. Whenever that happens, they can continue their narrative of this needs to happen, this needs to happen. Cody Campbell has done TV commercials all through the fall about how this is the only way. Smash Sports, run by a private equity group. I don't even want to get in on the private equity. Like I said, they're the reason you used to have shopping malls. Trying to bring them into the house in a private equity-backed pooled media rights environment with numbers that are basically just trust me, bro. They're hoping that falls in between the cracks because right now, Mississippi State, I say Mississippi State just because of where they finished in football last year. It's not me making fun of them. There's just no playoff or anything adding on the top of it. They made $73 million a year ago. Under this Cody Campbell plan, they're planning on $7 billion a year divided by 136. That'd be $51 million. That's roughly a $20 million haircut that Mississippi State would take if the media rights got pulled. So this isn't just an Ole Miss thing. This is a Vanderbilt thing. This is an LSU thing. This is an Alabama thing. This is a Georgia thing, Florida thing, Northwestern thing, Michigan State thing. Everybody needs to be concerned that they are coming after your money. And like I said, once people start coming after your money, they don't just take no for an answer until they get your money. When they get your money, hey, they'll say, hey, thanks for doing that. And everything's going on. Because at the end of the day, this is a giant power struggle. And you have the SEC and the Big Ten over here, and you have the rest of college football over here. And this side has much more people, which is my concern with this going in front of Congress. Even in the state of Mississippi, where most of the people, most of the constituents would be Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans, there's a lot of Southern Miss fans that are going to be loud. They might not be right, but they'll be loud. And because of that, the same type stuff that we have seen for the playoffs and all that built up over the last couple of years will continue. Don't be fooled by the performative mess where they're going to fix college football. Pay attention to pooling media rights and antitrust. Those are the two issues that you need to pay attention to. Those are the two mechanisms, A, for the NCAA to start ruling with an iron fist. They're already threatening retribution against teams that get court remedies against their mistreatment. They're already threatening that. They're going to rule with an iron fist because that's how they've always done. And everybody's going to say, no, the NCAA is great. Let me tell you my experience with the NCAA. In 1995, Ole Miss cooperated. They did exemplary cooperation. And they wanted to put themselves in the best possible light and all of that stuff. What resulted was the second worst probation behind SMU at the time, for no reason, essentially. Second, let's go back to the Hugh Freeze thing where the tweet happened. The Ole Miss compliance tweet got put out. Roughly hunting on land and $10,000 worth a 2-year bowl ban and multiple scholarships left over the year and a high fine. They got killed again. Let me break this to you right now, NCAA. The days of Ole Miss rolling over, that's done. That's a bygone era. We've learned our lesson. It took a little bit of time, but Humpty Dumpty finally got put back together again. And now that they did, they're not going to let you knock him off the wall. Not this time. You're going to have to find another stooge to be your fall guy. And to the rich billionaires that want to steal Ole Miss's money, the $20 to $25 million that they want to just steal, that's not going to happen either. Because the moment this gets passed and the pressure starts building, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to go. They're going to walk out the door together. And you know what else they're going to do? They're probably going to take your 10 biggest brands. So you can pull all the media rights you want, but it's going to be based off of Sunbelt and Conference USA numbers as opposed to, quote, Power 4 numbers. And Ole Miss taking their shot right now with Trinidad Chambliss and fighting the NCAA tooth and nail, that's not going to change that.
That's all for the Big 3 and 30 college. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 college.